The night remembers every word a child dares to whisper. The rain came down like needles that night, cold and deliberate, stitching the sky shut with silver threads. Greystone Hollow was not on any map anymore. It was a place swallowed by its own silence where even crows refused to perch and the mist moved like it had purpose. In a lonely cottage at the edge of the woods, a little girl named Elara Wren sat awake, knees drawn to her chest, the candle at her bedside, shivering in its glass. She was 8, but her eyes, pale, gray, and watchful, had already learned the language of fear. Her parents had argued again that evening, about the storm, the missing livestock. The thing villagers whispered roamed beneath the old churchyard when the moon hid her face. "Elara," her mother said before blowing out the last candle, "whatever you hear tonight, you stay in bed. Do not open your eyes. Do not speak. Do you understand?" Elara nodded, but she hadn't meant it. Now the walls creaked as though the wind itself had weight. Outside, the forest swayed with restless hunger. Beneath the gusts, something deeper pulsed a sound like the slow heartbeat of the earth. Then came the knock. 3 slow raps. Not on the door, on the window. Elara froze. Her breath misted. The candle trembled, guttered, and died, leaving the dark alive around her. Another knock. Louder. Then a voice low, resonant, beautiful, and wrong. "Are you awake, little one?" She didn't answer. The voice chuckled, soft as velvet scraping on bone. "I can hear your heart. It sounds like thunder in a small room." Elara crawled toward the window, small hands trembling. Lightning flared. A tall figure stood perfectly still in the rain. Another flash, and his face was closer. Not human. Not entirely. Skin so pale it was almost translucent. Hair black as spilled ink, eyes burning red like dying embers in snow. "You smell of fear," he whispered through the glass. "And innocence." Her tiny voice slipped out. "Who are you?" "The one your mother prays to forget." He smiled, slow, deliberate. Lightning carved his long, refined teeth, crafted for beauty as much as for violence. Elara stepped back, but not far enough. Something in him drew her nearer, a gravity older than pity. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "And yet you called me," the man murmured. "All those nights, you whispered wishes into the dark. All those times you asked if monsters were real. I heard you." "I didn't mean it," she stammered. "Intentions are irrelevant. Words have power, especially from a soul that hasn't yet lied." The window clicked open slow, soundless. Wind rushed and smelling of iron and roses. He leaned closer. His breath brushed her cheek, cold as winter. "Do you want to live forever, Elara?" She hesitated, and in that hesitation, innocence died. "Maybe when I grow up." His smile deepened. "When you grow up," he repeated, tasting the words. "Then I may drink from you. You'll call for me again. You won't remember, but you'll feel it." He touched her throat gentle, promising. 16 years, he said, and I will return to claim what was offered." Lightning tore the night apart. She screamed and he was gone. The window sealed itself. On the floor lay a black rose, its petals bleeding down the stem. Her parents burst in, her mother clutching her, her father sweeping the room with a rifle. No footprints, no intruder, only the rose, and the faint crimson mark now blooming at Elara's throat. That night, Greystone Hollow did not sleep. Dogs howled. The church bell tolled at midnight, though no rope was pulled. In the graveyard, one mound of earth sank an inch deeper. Elara never spoke of the man again, yet when rain whispered against her window, sometimes a voice answered beneath it. 16 years, and the black rose bled anew. Years drifted like fog. 16 winters later, Elara Wren returned to Greystone Hollow. The village was more ghost than place cottages slumped into earth, ivy throttling the church spire, air humming with old memory. She was 24 now, tall, sharp, featured, eyes the color of frozen rain. Her parents were long dead, buried in a churchyard whose graves no longer stayed still. She told herself she'd come to sell the land. But truth has a scent, and hers reeked of unfinished business. The cottage door groaned open as though sighing her name. Dust spiraled through the beam of her lantern. Her childhood drawings still clung to the walls, faded crayon stars, crooked flowers. A tall man with red eyes. By the fireplace lay a folded parchment, untouched by time, though everything else had rotted. You kept your promise, my little flame. The night remembers. The air chilled. Her breath turned to mist. A creak behind her. Nothing. Then a sound beneath the wind. A lullaby. Her lullaby. The one her mother used to hum to chase away nightmares. Now a man's voice carried it from the forest edge. Sleep, little flame, dream without pain. The night will guard what daylight's slain. Elara's pulse stuttered. Who's there? Silence. Then movement. A tall figure stepped from the fog, cloaked in black, face hooded, yet beneath the fabric glowed faint red. You came back, he said, voice unchanged by time. I knew you would. Her lantern flickered out. Only his eyes remained. Twin coals in the dark. Who are you? She demanded, though she already knew. You asked me once, he said, tilting his head. I told you then, I'm the one your mother prayed to forget. She stumbled backward. Her heel sank into the wet soil. You're not real. You're a story they told to keep children in bed. Then why do you still bear my mark? Her fingers flew to her throat. The old crimson stain pulsed again, hot beneath her skin. He lowered his hood. His face was unchanged. Ivory, perfect, and terrible. I waited, he murmured. 16 winters and 16 summers. Do you know what that kind of hunger feels like? Why me? She whispered. Because you asked. Because you looked at the dark and smiled. Rain began not water, but black drops, smelling of iron. The river rippled red. The name surfaced unbidden. Kael. He stretched out a hand. Come home, little flame. You were never meant for their world. I came to end this, she said. You can't end what you began with your own blood. Lightning cracked. For one heartbeat the forest filled with pale figures, eyes glowing coal, red in the downpour. Kael smiled faintly. They remember you, too. Thunder split the sky, and he was gone. On the riverbank lay a black rose, its petals bleeding despite the rain. Elara stood trembling not from cold, but from the terrible truth blooming in her chest. She had wanted him to find her. The rain had stopped, but silence was worse. It clung to the air like fog on glass, heavy, sentient, expectant. The village was gone behind her. Only the forest remained, rising in endless shadows that devoured the horizon. Elara's lantern flickered weakly. The light trembled on bark that looked too smooth, as if the trees had no age, no grain, only a kind of watchfulness. Her breath formed small ghosts in the cold. Each exhale disappeared into branches that whispered in a language that might have once been human. She followed the sound that had called her, the faint echo of that lullaby. It came and went like a heartbeat buried under leaves. Sleep, little flame. The words bled into the wind, sweet and venomous. The deeper she went, the stranger the forest became. Roots coiled like veins. The moss glowed faintly red under her feet, bleeding light with every step. She should have turned back. She didn't. Something in her chest, something she had never named, urged her forward. When she reached the clearing, the world held its breath. Moonlight glimmered faintly through mist, revealing a circle of ancient stones carved with symbols that pulsed faintly, as though breathing. In the center, An altar of black marble stood cracked but not ruined. Around it, tiny flowers of bone-white petals grew from the soil, fragile and wrong, their stems bleeding milk instead of sap. And then she saw him. Kael stood at the altar, his back turned, coat soaked in shadow. His hands rested on the stone as if he were praying, but when he spoke, the prayer wasn't to God. 16 years, he murmured, and your blood remembered its promise. Elara's breath caught. Why did you bring me here? I didn't, he said. You came, as you always would. She tried to step back, but the forest closed ranks. Branches bent, roots shifted, air turned dense. Let me go. Kael turned slowly, his eyes glowing like embers banked in snow. You think you want freedom, but what you want, Elara, is to understand why the darkness knows your name. He gestured to the altar. Its surface shimmered. Images flickered her mother, kneeling before the same stones, tears streaking her cheeks. She came here once, Kael said, begging for salvation. From what? From death, from plague, from hunger. He stepped closer, voice low, hypnotic. And I offered her mercy. Elara's heart clenched. Me. Yes, you. She felt the world sway. You fed on me when I was a child. No, he whispered. I waited. You said the words yourself when I grow up. He reached out. His fingers hovered just above her cheek, not touching. You have no idea what kind of restraint that required. Restraint? She spat. You stalked a child. His expression hardened. You think I chose you? I am bound by what's promised, not what's desired. Your mother made the pact, your tongue sealed it. Elara's knees gave out. She fell to the earth, cold moss biting her skin. I never wanted this. And yet it has always wanted you. He stepped closer. The glow of his eyes dimmed. You think this is about blood, but it's about inheritance. You are your mother's debt and her redemption. He turned toward the altar. There's a storm coming, little flame, not of rain, of memory. When it breaks, everything buried will rise again. Then I'll drown it, she said, forcing herself up. Kael smiled faintly. That's what she said too. A wind ripped through the clearing. The trees shivered, their leaves turning black one by one. From the altar's cracks, thin tendrils of red light spilled like veins of molten iron. Kael's voice drifted over the sound. Go home, Elara, before you remember too much. But she didn't run. She turned toward the forest, and when she looked back, Kael was gone. In his place lay a single black feather, dripping blood that hissed when it hit the earth. The next morning, the sky refused to brighten. It hung gray and still, a dome of lead over a dying world. Elara's hands still trembled from what she'd seen. She couldn't tell if the cold she felt came from inside her or from the hollow itself. The village streets were empty, windows shuttered, doors chained from the outside, as if everyone had sealed themselves in against something that no longer knocked. By noon she stood before the chapel, its roof sagging, its bell rusted red. When the wind passed through the tower, it moaned like a voice half-drowned. The doors opened by themselves. Inside, candles burned with black flame, each wick whispering softly. The air smelled of wax, blood, and something faintly sweet like perfume left too long on a corpse. She stepped forward, her boots echoing in the emptiness. Kael. Her voice seemed to hang in the air. From behind the altar came a sound like a sigh. He appeared, not stepping but materializing, as if he'd been part of the chapel all along. You shouldn't have followed me here. I didn't follow, she said. I came to end this. He smiled, but it was sad. You can't end what you don't understand. Then make me understand. Kael gestured toward the altar. This place remembers everything. It was built on the bones of the first covenant. Every wall, every candle is a confession. She looked closer, Faint faces were carved into the wood, mouths open, eyes hollow. The pews were lined with stains that weren't shadow. Kael's voice softened. Your mother came here before she died. She prayed for you to be spared. But prayers made inside the hollow never reach heaven. They only echo back. He reached for a candle. The black flame danced on his fingertip without burning. Do you know what faith tastes like after it curdles? Elara said nothing. Like iron, he murmured, touching his tongue to the flame. She flinched. What are you? Something that learned love too late and forgot how to die. He moved closer, and the air grew cold enough to bite. You are bound to me, Elara. But the bond is not what you think. The promise you made as a child wasn't for your life, it was for your choice. You gave me your will. She shook her head violently. No, every decision you've made since you returned, every road, every word has led you to me. Then I'll choose differently now. Kael smiled, but there was pride in it. Then choose, little flame. But know this, the moment you make a choice I don't expect, the curse will break. That's how it was written. The chapel shook. The walls wept, resin that glimmered like blood. Outside, thunder rolled, though no storm brewed. Elara whispered, Then I'll choose to burn you. Kael's eyes flickered, just once. Then do it. She grabbed the candle and threw it at him. The black flame hit his chest and split one half, crawling up the walls, the other seeping into his skin. Kael staggered, laughing not in mockery, but in awe. You don't understand, do you? Every act of defiance feeds it. The darkness doesn't care who wins, it only cares that you play. He sank to one knee, smoke coiling around him. You've woken something older than me, Elara. Something that remembers the first lie ever told. What have I done? He looked up. You've started the feast. Outside, the bell began to ring again slowly, impossibly, without hands. And this time it did not stop. Greystone's lanes looked the same in every direction. Slick cobbles, shuttered windows, fog thick as cloth. The world smelled of mildew and iron. Elara followed the sound of the tolling bell until it faded into a wheeze and died. Ahead stood a house, shaped like a mouth, the House of Teeth. Locals used to whisper that the walls chewed the prayers of those who entered. Now it simply watched her approach. She raised her hand to knock. Before her knuckles touched the wood, 6 bolts scraped free. The door opened a finger's width, releasing a sigh of myrrh and rot. Elara Wren, rasped a voice. You took your time. Father Marrow, she breathed. He looked older than any candle had the right to outlive, a thin frame wrapped in black, beard streaked with soot, one cloudy eye and one sharp as a needle. His fingers were stained with salt and scripture. You've brought it with you, he said, nodding to her neck. The Covenant's pulse. It's waking, she admitted. He gestured her inside. Then there's still a window before it swallows the sky. The interior smelled of wax, mildew, and something metallic beneath. The walls were lined with shelves of warped books and jars filled with things that pretended to sleep. On a desk lay a line of objects that could have belonged to either a surgeon or a murderer. Silver nails, a cruciform blade, a vial of ash labeled Eucharist of the Unhallowed. Father Marrow lifted a candle, its flame trembling as though it feared his hand. Let me see it. Elara drew her collar aside. The sigil shimmered faintly, lines twisting like veins beneath glass. He hissed through his teeth. The Covenant seal. I had prayed it would fade with your mother's bloodline. You told her it would, she said. I lied. Sometimes lies are the only tools the living have. He fetched a thick book bound in cracked leather. The page he opened showed a kneeling woman, a shadow standing over her like an eclipse. Below, a warning written in a trembling hand. He takes only what is offered, but arranges the world so that offering becomes inevitable. Elara swallowed. My mother offered me. She offered hope, Marrow corrected softly. The plague was killing every child in the Hollow. She begged the dark to spare one future. It chose you. She traded my life for a cure. He looked up, eyes wet and furious. She traded her salvation for yours. You don't understand what it means to bargain with absence. A draft crept under the door, smelling of cold earth. The candle bent toward it, flame elongating like a tongue. The crow that had followed Elara since dawn thudded onto the sill and watched, head cocked. Marrow muttered a prayer in a language the church pretended not to know. It listens, he said. We must be quick. He drew a circle of salt on the floor and placed a red cord in her hands. This will anchor you. When I call the name that is missing, you will see things. Do not look at them. Elara knelt. What happens if I do? He met her gaze. Then it will look back. He began the chant. The air thickened, turning syrupy with pressure. The candlelight shrank into a pinpoint and went blue. A whisper rose from beneath the floorboards, then from the walls, then from inside her ears. Elara! She bit her tongue and stared at the priest. His lips moved, but the voice came from behind her teeth. Little flame, come home. Her muscles locked. The red cord writhed like a living vein. Father Marrow's voice cracked. Say your name, Elara Wren. Again. I am Elara Wren. What are you? I am alive. The shadows shrieked and folded inward. The floor quaked. The candle exploded into smoke. Kael's voice entered the void, gentle and devastating. You make it so hard to love you safely. When the light returned, he was standing inside the circle. The salt hissed and melted where his boots touched it. Father Marrow grabbed the cruciform blade, holding it like a cross. Leave her. Kael smiled faintly. If I leave, she dies. We share a rhythm now. Elara's pulse hammered to match his. She felt it 2 heartbeats, slightly out of sync, dragging her between breaths. Get out, the priest shouted. Kael tilted his head. Why do you think your God allows you to keep breathing, old man? Because someone like me keeps paying the interest. He turned back to Elara, voice soft. You're unraveling the hollow faster than I expected. Keep going, and it will eat itself and you. Then tell me how to stop it, she demanded. He reached out, not touching her, but the air between them trembled. You'll find the answer where fear was born. Before she could speak, he and the circle of shadow vanished. The candle reignited with ordinary yellow flame. Father Marrow slumped, blood trickling from his nose. He's taking you deeper, he rasped. The birthplace of the promise. Elara helped him up. Where? The crypt beneath the river. The first chamber. Take this. He handed her a shard of mirror no bigger than her thumb. It will remind you of who you are when memory lies. The crow shrieked once, wings scraping the ceiling. Elara stepped outside into a night so thick it muffled her footsteps. Behind her, the priest whispered to the empty air, May she choose wrong enough to be saved. The path to the river was a mouth of roots. She followed it until the trees opened into a clearing where the ground pulsed faintly. Alive. A circular stone stair led downward into what once might have been a shrine. The air smelled of wet stone and centuries. At the bottom waited a pool of still, black water, ringed by kneeling figures fossilized mid-prayer. Silver threads sewed their lips shut. Their hands were locked together as if bracing for mercy that never came. Kael stood among them. His reflection did not move when he did. This is where it started, he said. The first bargain. With you? With hunger, he replied. I was only its mouth. He pointed to one of the kneeling bodies. Look. Elara stepped closer. Though the face was eroded, the hands were unmistakable, her mother's, scar by the thumb, second finger slightly bent. No, she whispered. Yes, his voice was soft. She begged the absence to save her village. It agreed on condition that one future would be offered when ripe. She gave it yours. Elara's breath hitched. She loved me. She did. Enough to give you to something that never forgets a gift. The pool quivered. shadows beneath its surface rearranged into scenes. Her mother's face streaked with blood, Kael emerging from fog, the night she was marked. Elara dropped to her knees. All of this because she was afraid? Because she believed, Kael said. Faith and fear are the same seed watered differently. She looked up at him. Then, what are you? He smiled wearily. The harvest. She stood. I can end this. How? By giving it something it doesn't understand. What's that? Choice. Kael laughed softly. That word breaks gods. Be careful how you use it. She pulled the mirror shard from her pocket. In its surface she saw not her reflection but Kael's eyes dim, face almost human. When I bit you, she said slowly, I tasted ashes. But under that, I tasted want. He flinched. She stepped closer. You wanted to end. You still do. His silence was answer enough. The kneeling figures began to stir. Threads trembled. Silver dust fell like snow. Her mother's eyes opened, glowing faintly blue. Elara, the corpse whispered through a sealed mouth. Elara crawled to her. Tell me how to stop it. Her mother's gaze turned to the pool. Break the circle, but not with light. It devours light. Break it with error. Error? Choose wrong on purpose. The voice faded. The threads sealed again. Kael's expression darkened. She's trying to make you her confession. Elara ignored him. She cut her palm with the mirror shard and let her blood drip into the pool. The surface hissed, then froze to glass. Kael lunged forward. No! She held up her bleeding hand. You said every road leads to you. Then you're where it ends. He caught her wrist. You'll unmake us both. Good. He met her gaze. Then drink, not as prey, but as verdict. He brought her hand to his lips and drank. The world convulsed. The pool shattered. The silver threads in the kneeling mouths snapped, releasing a scream like breaking ice. Elara's heart stuttered, then synced to a rhythm older than hers. Voices poured through her blood every soul he had ever taken. They weren't teeth anymore. They were prayers unfinished. She staggered. I can't hold them. Yes, you can, Kael said. Because you're the only thing left that still remembers choosing. The chamber groaned, walls splitting. A fissure opened to blinding white. Kael shielded her with his body, though it burned him. How do we leave? She gasped. By refusing to. The crack yawned wider. Elara sat down deliberately on the trembling stone. Then we stay. Kael stared, then laughed, a raw, astonished sound. Defiance as devotion. The light hesitated, confused. The fissure sealed itself, muttering like a beast denied its meal. When sight returned, they were back in the House of Teeth. Father Marrow lay where she'd left him, barely breathing. The crow perched above, feathers singed to dull bronze. Elara rose unsteadily. Kael stood beside her, smoke curling from his sleeves. Marrow opened one eye. You came back. She pressed the mirror shard into his palm. A different door, she said. He looked from her to Kael, recognition dawning, fear failing to follow. Then there's still time, he murmured. To teach the curse another shape. Elara glanced at Kael. Can it change? He met her gaze. Only if you decide it can. The crow croaked once, a sound that might have been agreement. Outside, the bell tolled once, then broke mid-note. Greystone Hollow listened. The hollow slept under a sky that was neither night nor day. The air had turned metallic, as if the world itself had exhaled blood. Elara stood where the chapel had fallen, her reflection caught in a pool that did not ripple. Behind her, Kael watched the clouds tighten into a spiral. The sun's outline dulled, a faint black rim forming around it like a wound that refused to heal. It's beginning, he said. What is? The eclipse, The moment when the veil thins and the absence chooses its keeper. Elara's hand went to her throat, feeling the faint scar where the mark had been. And if I refuse? Kael's eyes dimmed. Then the hollow will swallow you whole. Refusal is still participation. The wind rose, carrying with it faint voices, laughter, sobbing, whispers, all saying her name. Elara! 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 Kael turned to face her. You could end it now. One death would suffice. Whose? Mine. The word landed like a stone dropped into still water. She stepped closer. And if I don't? Then you become me. Lightning snaked across the sky, purple and veined with red. The bell in the chapel tower groaned, though it had long been broken. Elara's voice trembled. If I kill you, I become the thing that killed you. If I let you live, the curse continues. That's not choice, it's manipulation. Kael smiled faintly. It's life. The first drop of eclipse rain fell thick, black, hissing where it touched earth. Elara felt the air hum through her bones. Her pulse began to mirror his again, two hearts out of rhythm trying to merge. Kael's expression softened. Do you remember what you told me when you were a child? Her throat tightened. You can bite me when I grow up. He nodded. You have grown up. So bite back. A tremor ran through the hollow. The clouds sealed over the sun entirely. Light vanished, leaving only a rim of fire around the moon. The eclipse had come. Kael knelt before her, head bowed. Do it. I can't. Then neither of us will ever die. Elara reached for him, tears stinging her eyes. You waited 16 years to destroy me? No, he said. I waited 16 years to see if you'd become strong enough to end me. The shadows rose like water, climbing their legs. Every whisper became a scream. The forest bent toward them. Elara's heart pounded. Then tell me how to end it. Kael's voice broke. With love, little flame. The kind that refuses to serve either god or monster. The words struck something deep inside her, something older than fear. She took his face in her hands, leaned close, and whispered, Then I choose wrong. Kael looked at her eyes full of sorrow and awe as she kissed him. The moment their lips met, the mark on her throat flared white-hot. Kael gasped. The curse reversed its flow, pouring out of her into him like liquid fire. His veins blazed with light. Cracks split his skin, glowing from within. He looked almost relieved. You've done it, he whispered. Elara held him as the world trembled. Don't you fade, she said. He smiled weakly. I was never meant to last this long. His body began to dissolve into ash, rising like dust through the dying eclipse light. You chose wrong, he said. And that's why you'll be free. The wind howled. The sun reappeared, pale, uncertain. The curse broke. Kael's last breath vanished on the wind. Elara fell to her knees, trembling, blood streaking her neck. Around her, Greystone Hollow began to wake from its centuries of sleep. But not everything that woke was human. Morning found her by the river, where the eclipse had melted the night into gray gold. The water ran clear again. The trees stood still, as if waiting for instruction. Father Merrow limped toward her, blood crusted on his robe. He carried the cracked bell rope over his shoulder like a dead snake. Elara, he rasped. The hollow lives. She turned. Her eyes, once storm gray, now held a faint ember red at their center. And Kael? Gone. She touched her throat. Not entirely. He followed her gaze to the reflection in the river. For a moment, he saw Kael's face beside hers faint, smiling, fading with every ripple. Merrow's voice was almost gentle. He loved you in the only way monsters know how, by ending. Elara looked up at the sky. Then I'll love him the way the living do, by remembering. The priest nodded. And what of the hollow? It's mine now. she said. But it will not feed on fear anymore. It will feed on stories. He frowned. Stories? The villagers will remember the monster who waited 16 years for a promise, and the girl who broke it by keeping it. They'll tell it wrong, and that's how it will stay buried. Marrow smiled faintly, weary to the bone. Wrong on purpose. She nodded. Exactly. A gust of wind rose, carrying the faint scent of roses and ash. From somewhere deep in the forest, the echo of Kael's voice whispered through the trees, faint, reverent, final. I kept my promise too, little flame. Elara stood. The morning light kissed her skin. For the first time, it didn't recoil. Behind her, the cracked bell in the chapel tower swung once more. The sound it made wasn't a toll or a warning, it was a sigh of relief. She walked away from Greystone Hollow, and though the sun rose fully behind her, her shadow lingered a little too long, not dark, not cursed, but watchful. And somewhere, between heartbeat and echo, the night smiled.